Hello everyone. In today's session, we will understand what is Mulesoft and how we can use it for the integrations. Also, we will see the practical demonstration of creating a sample API from the Anypoint Studio. So let's understand what is Mulesoft first. Mulesoft is an integration platform that can be used for creating the integrations between various applications or the data sources or the databases, and it can also perform the data transformations as well. So let's see how we can create a sample API from my Anypoint Studio. Alright, I'm in my Anypoint Studio. Let me create my project by clicking on File, New, Mule Project. I'll give my project name as my sample API. Click on Finish, it will create my project. If you see left side, it has created my project and it has created various directories. We will understand the usage of each directory in further sessions. And if you see on the right side, we have mule palette wherein we have all the connectors. We can pull these connectors to build our mule for creating our sample API. So I'll create my event source first. For that, I'll drag listener connector to the mule flow, and I'll add the configuration, which is kind of a event source which keeps on listens for our API request. So I will click on plus for creating HTTP listener configuration, and my primary API works on protocol HTTP. The host is 0.0.0 and works on port 8081. And if we want to make it to HTTPS, obviously we can make it, but we have to add the required configuration. So we will understand creating HTTPS API going forward. So for now let's keep it as it is, and my base path of the application, I'll give it as /API and click on OK. And then actual path of the API, I'll give it as something like sample API. Save it. Okay, now on top of it, I want to build my actual connector, or I want to build actual API. So as part of this API, I want to print something on the console, like the way we have a print statement in the programming language. In Mule also we have one connector called logger that you can use to print something on the console. So I'll drag this logger connector to here. I'll add some print statement, something like hello, this is a sample API. Save it. Okay, my sample API has been created. Now I want to create another API which kind of makes actual HTTP call to a publicly available API and get the employee data. So I'll switch to my browser. This is publicly available documentation you can use. It has all the APIs that you can make requests to. Say for example, if I click on this link, it will fetch employee data. So I want to make an API call to this API from my Mule connector. So for that, I want to build the flow. So first let me drag my event source, not logger. I will delete this. It should be listener. Okay, I will add my listener configuration again. Click on plus. My API, I want to change the port to 8082 and protocol is same. Base path again, it will be same /API, and this path I want to give it as slash. What is this path? So let's take this one as an example. Okay, let me save it. Okay, now I want to create a flow in a way that it will make HTTP call to the publicly available API. So for that, I will drag HTTP request connector. Now I will add the configuration. Click on plus. So if you see, we can switch the protocols here. HTTPS, if you see here, our API works on HTTPS protocol. So I've changed it, and let's add the domain. This is my host. I will add my host as this one. Okay, port, since it is HTTPS 443, and if our API require a TLS configuration, we can enable over here, and connection idle timeout we can add here, and also authentication you can add here, like if our API request require the username and password, the basic authentication we can use, or any kind of certificates also we can pass from here. Since it does not require any kind of authentication, I'll leave it as none. And we can also use reconnection strategy. Reconnection strategy helps when an API connectivity is failed. So there are two types in it. One is standard, the other one is forever. Standard one, which kind of retries. Say for example, if I give it as 3 times, it will keep on retrying 3 times with a frequency of 2000 milliseconds. If the API connectivity is still not established, then the API request will be failed. And the other one is forever. So this forever, there is no hard limit on the number of retries. It will keep on retrying with a frequency of 2000 milliseconds until it is successful. This is not a best practice to use in all the cases. For now, I'll leave it none. Okay, we don't want any retry strategy. And if you want to rename this HTTP request configuration, we can rename. I'm leaving as it is for now. So we will understand the detailed use of each configuration in the further sessions. I'll click on OK for now. And then the path. After adding the path, my API method is get request, so it is get. In other cases, like if you want to make delete or post some other API calls, we can change it over here. And the path, so my API path is this one, /API/v1/employees. I'm adding over here. And if our API require some kind of headers or query params, URL params, we can add here. Now I will save it. Yeah, everything is saved now. Okay, now say for example, this API might require some get operations or put operations or delete operations, and if you want to limit this API to certain API methods, we can limit by clicking on listener. In the advanced, we can define our allowed methods for the API. For example, get, post, put. If I'm giving these 3 allowed methods, only these 3 methods are allowed for this API call. Say for example, for the same API I'm making delete call, it will not be accepted because I have not added anything in the allowed methods. So that is how you can define. I have saved it. Now let me start the application by right clicking on it. Click on run project. Okay, my application is deployed now. I will go to my postman and make the API call. Since it is deployed in my local host, I'll give it as http://localhost port 8081. So if you see, my first API works on port 8081. Okay, and the path of this request is sample API. So I'll copy this one. The base path is /API/actual path is this. Okay, I will hit this one. Before I hit, I'll go to console and clear the screen. Okay, click on send request. The request has been sent. Now if you see, it has printed the output what we added there in the logger. Hello, this is a sample API. So this is what we added in the logger. So that is how our API works. Now let's try to make another API call to this flow. So in the listener configuration, this is working on 8082 port with the path of let me see, this one, v1/employees. So I will change the port 8082/API/v1/employees, and again it is a get request. So if I click on send button, it is making the API call. There you go, we got the data from the public API. So it is returning the employee data, employee name, employee salary, employee age, and profile image. So this is how we can build the APIs in Mulesoft. That's all for this session. Thanks for watching.